Wichita, Kansas, current market stats and insights, both national and local, is what I'm going to go over on everything. But before we get into all that, please like, comment, subscribe, share, all those things to help grow the channel. And if there's any other videos you want to check out, there's tons on Wichita, tons on real estate. And a lot of people call me from those, and I love it when you call me and we talk about real estate and how I can personally help you with everything. But with all that, let's go ahead and get into the stats. So if you want to look at August, number of sales has gone down by 14%, but the price has actually gone up 5% to 239,000. So number of sales down 14%, price of homes up 5% is what you need to see there. New builds, number of sales down 5%, price of new builds down 16%. So that kind of gives you an idea of what price point is selling for new builds, because that doesn't necessarily mean the builder will deviate from the price, but the price of new build homes that's selling is lower, 16% lower than what we saw last year on everything. Number of contracts written is also down 10%. So that means the number of pending contracts, agents that are writing contracts is down 10%. One important thing to note is we are seeing a large increase of inventory at 1476 listings. That's some of the highest amount of active listings we've seen in a while in our market, compared to last year of 1,029 at this point of year. So that means there's 1.9 months of supply. And what that means is when you get to 6 months of supply, that's when you have a balanced market of about an equal amount of buyers and sellers on each side. Right now we're 1.9, it's still a seller's market, but we are seeing that we have hesitant buyers, and we're starting to see that inventory increase on everything. And I'll show you it by the season, by the month to look at, but also you want to take into account the price point and the location you're buying in, because again, this is all of the Wichita region, MLS region combined on everything. So it's a very broad statement around what's going on in the market. If you want to narrow it down to a price point and a location, that gets much more specific. There's like 344 of those in Wichita. Way too long for a video, way too much to cover month over month. If you need that specifically for you and your situation, your neighborhood, let me know. I'd be happy to make it for you so you can make decisions from there of where to buy and where to sell on everything. And that's why we focus so much on the buy side of things, is because you make your money when you buy it right. And you begin with the end in mind, and you make a smart purchase decision. That's why we focus so heavily on the buy side of the business and really setting you up for long-term success when you make smart purchase decisions on everything. Because if you make a smart purchase decision, the selling side of things kind of takes care of itself, where it's a lot more feasible to do things in the future when you've made a smart purchase decision with the end in mind on everything. So just a side note there, a little bit of self-plugging in there. Let's look at some data real quick, then we'll get to the national stuff. So we look at closed listings by month. The majority of homes sell, in that first spring and summer part of the year, and it kind of starts to trail off into the fall and the winter. That's gone on for the last 2 years, and that's how it historically follows everything, with just being the colder months, holidays, all that. But you can see how drastic of a difference it is from January and February to the spring and the summer months on everything, and where things are at and where it's going. And it's very volatile, and sometimes it's hard to read and understand why people are doing what they're doing. At the end of the day, people are always buying and selling real estate, regardless of interest rate, regardless of the market. It's just how can we best help you to navigate this data, these stats, the situation, so that you can make informed, smart decisions as buyers and sellers with all this. So hopefully that's what this is helping you to do. The other thing to note is where things are selling at. Again, it's the majority of $200,000 to $400,000 houses is the majority of our market. That's the middle of our market is what I would say. So to give you an idea of Wichita and our price points, existing homes, average price points $240,000. For new builds, average price points $394,000. Kind of gives you an idea of where things are at and what's going on. Really, anything below $124,000 isn't that much activity going on down there. At least not actively listed through a realtor. Anyway, let's move on to that. Just helps you study the price and the dynamics and the numbers of our market and what's going on. Average price, again, kind of follows a bell curve. So if you're looking to buy a home over here in the next 4 to 6 months, really is the ideal time. That's what we specialize in, and what we're best at is making those purchase decisions. It's where the contractor background comes from. It's where the digital marketing service background comes from, being available and responsive with me and Rico and my service team to make sure we're there for you when you need us to make smart purchase decisions on everything. So over the next 4 to 6 months, it's going to be a good time to buy. If you're a seller, I've been prepping everyone, like, wait till spring or only be putting your house on the market if you have to sell. And hopefully you got enough equity, enough spread to get it to sell. Because houses always sell. It's just a matter for how much and when on everything. So just learning to read and understand how real estate and the market works. So I get some of this stuff can be nerdy and boring. But right now, the average days on market is 21. I'd rather have you be prepared for that than what the median days on market says, because median days on market says 6. I think that's a little misleading of how it actually is. I think average days on market is a little better predictor to give you how long it's going to take to get your home sold on everything, because this is, again, across the board. The averages on everything. You can see in 2022 when things were going nuts, when the average was, 11 in June. Houses were flying off the market there. We're not in that market anymore. And going into the fall and winter, I could see it getting pretty slow, getting pretty slim pickings, pretty thin on everything. So just read the market, know the market, play the market. But ultimately, at the end of the day, your life situation is going to dictate why you need to buy or sell on everything. Hopefully you have a sound financial situation that set you up for that. If not, let's get one put together so I can put you in a solid financial position for the rest of your life through real estate. Obviously, all the other things that you consider financially is on you, but I can help you do that from a real estate perspective. And that's really the long-term mindset we take with this on making these decisions about real estate and the market and the data on everything. But this is where you can see our active listings are creeping up higher than they ever have been over the past 2 years. And honestly, the highest they've been in a while as far as inventory goes. Because when you look at like history of active listings, we're starting to creep up to 2020-ish levels, but really we still got to get to 2,000 and 2,500 units to even get back to like 2017 and 2018 levels. So still a shortage, but we're starting to see it come up, which is a good thing. More options for buyers. If you're a seller, you're going to have more competition that comes with it all. That's just the facts and the data of the matter. And I'd rather be prepared for it, whether you want to hear it or not. You need to hear it and you need to see it on everything. So what else we got? Average days on market, we already went on that. Median days on market, month supply is starting to go up, which is actually a good thing. We're starting to see it climb in number of active listings. Let's see. So it's kind of like, it's funny because like the time to sell was spring and summer this year. Now it's like everybody's late to the boat, late to the show, and throwing their house on the market. It ain't selling. And then they're like, why isn't my house selling? It's like, well, you kind of late, kind of missed the opportunity, missed the window. Not to say things don't sell and move, they do, but it's not as prime right now to sell going into the fall and the winter. If you can wait till spring of next year, that'd be better. Or it's kind of like you got to just deal with what you missed on everything. Average price, you kind of see where it's starting to trail off like it normally does into the fall and winter. See, is there anything else of note on this that we need to look at before we go to the national stuff? So with higher interest rates, we're writing on lower prices. Basically, people are buying less expensive houses, essentially. So that's causing, people to go down, and they're not, it doesn't necessarily make your house go down in value. People are just buying lower priced homes on everything that are priced appropriately for their size and the location and all that. So it's just people are opting to not buy the higher priced home. They're buying the lower priced home at asking price, but it's just your higher priced home may not sell. You may have to sit on it. You may stay on it. You didn't lose anything. You still have the house, but if you're not in a have to sell situation, you just keep the house. Like you just stay there. Like it is really what it comes down to. So that's probably I got from a local perspective. Let's go to the national stuff so you can get a bigger picture. Because yes, we are still affected on the national trends here locally in Wichita, even though a lot of times we like to act like we're not. We are on these bigger indicators. Most agents know it's happening, good agents understand, but great agents can explain what's happening and how to navigate it and how to make decisions based on that. So that's really what I try to help you out as aggregating the data and then communicate that data simply and effectively so you can make decisions on what you want to do on everything. So existing home sales receded 16%. That's pretty in line with our market too. Like that's what we saw in the whole nation. That's pretty in line with what we saw in Wichita as well. And two things are driving the sales activity: inventory availability and mortgage rates. Don't have enough listings, cost of money's high, essentially. So you're still buying and selling. You just may have to buy a lower priced home or a different home than what you were previously able to buy on everything. But we're nowhere near 2008 when you look at average inventory of homes for sale. When you look at like what the inventory levels were back then compared to where they're at now, like we're half of what it was then when that thing was peaking. And then when it went nuts, like all this, you can kind of see where we're at. And really what that came down to is really loose lending standards back then. And if you've ever bought a house in the last like 5 to 7 years, you can understand how strict these lending standards are of why we're not going to a crash again. And if you've seen some of this equity that we're going to show you in a sec, like 36% of people own their house free and clear, and 30 some other percent own it with more than 50% equity. So because of so much equity, Americans have options to make things happen, that we're not going to have a spike and a crash like we saw in 08, just because of the people that are buying houses are very qualified to buy. And we have so many options equity wise. We can do a lot more things before you ever get to foreclosure and have way too much inventory on the market. So there's too many options now. It's also where builders haven't been building enough, but we're starting to get up there. We're starting to really ramp it up, and we're starting to see more builders going towards smaller, more affordable homes on everything. People are staying in their house for a lot longer too, is the other side of this. And really that's good, because you really should be planning for at least a 3 to 5 year plan to stay in that house and to gain equity and all that. But if it's a new build, it's really like a 10-year plan. In a lot of ways, just because you're in an equity spot to move in 3 to 5 years doesn't mean you can or you should or you have to. A lot of people are just sitting on their equity and being like, I'm in a good spot on everything, especially with those low interest rates of 2 and 3%. And I could see that continuing to happen for a while until they have to need to move and sell on everything, because they're going to sit on that 2 and 3% interest rate for a long time. I don't blame them. So yeah, shortage to reach 6 months, like I was talking about, to get to a balanced market. This is how much we'd have to continue to move on everything where our current inventory levels are at. So I'd say we're pretty stagnant is what I would say we are. Things are still moving. It's just not moving as crazy and as fast as we were before. We're still just not getting enough listings. And you can kind of see that trend continues as far as total listing count, where we're just short. That's all it is. We need more houses to come to the market. We need builders to build. We need boomers to sell, which they may or may not do because they don't want to leave their house. And over the next 10 years, a lot of them will be passing on, God rest their soul, but a lot of ways that will free up inventory of a lot of single individuals or people passing their wealth through their real estate onto the next generation on everything. So that's my personal opinion and insight on that. New listings starting to tick up. You saw that nationwide. You saw that in our local market. Really keeping an eye on interest rates and mortgages, and that'll be interesting to see what's going to go on here. This was an interesting stat. 38% of home buyers under 30 had a family member use a cash gift or an inheritance in order to afford the down payment. Nepo home buyers is what it's been termed, and I have been seeing that going on. So having parents, friends, family gift you the funds for a down payment so you can get into home ownership on everything. When there are down payment assistance programs, there aren't a lot of them out there. Honestly, the best one you can get is from friends, family, somebody you trust that can give you the money for the down payment to just get going into home ownership, so you're not having to pay rent essentially and get out of the rental trap game and get into building your own wealth instead of building your landlord's wealth. For whatever reason, we keep seeing people that are thinking that home prices are going to crash. And I think that's part of because you have the Kiyosaki's and the economists of the world selling fear, selling headlines, selling their courses. Because Kiyosaki has been predicting a crash for I don't know how long. It's like, dude, you guys are persistent. How much you keep calling for a crash that doesn't happen, but you're scaring the shit out of people. Excuse my language, but you're really selling fear and fear mongering to these people when, like, you're starting to see a lot of the public start to buy into it and see it. Yeah, we're in a recession. Things are costing more. Things are harder on everything. Everything from COVID is coming back to catch up with us now, but that doesn't mean the housing market is going to crash on everything. Because really, in all reality, for the housing market to crash, all of America has to crash. And you have to realize, like, you don't want that. Like, you don't want your entire country to crash and go out of business and be in default, like, because that's what would have to happen for our housing market to crash on everything. So we are starting to see them back on the rise. Everything's going to stabilize, normalize. We're showing improvement. I think people are starting to realize prices aren't going to go down. These interest rates aren't going to change. I can't wait any longer. I need to buy a house. I need to sell my house. I need to do something. Like, I can't wait any longer on everything. That's where you're starting to see listings come to the market. You're starting to see inventory that buyers can buy on everything. But for whatever reason, 1 in 4 people still believe prices will appreciate, which they're not, and they haven't. Like, they'll kind of just either stagnate or slightly rise like they're supposed to over time. That's my prediction. That's what seems to be what's been happening over the last 2-3 years. Nobody saw the unicorn years coming of 18 and 11% appreciation. That was nuts. But honestly, that was really just a big blessing for a lot of people who bought either before that and even during that, to be honest with you. Like, just real estate was going nuts, but we couldn't continue that forever. Let's see what else we got. So yeah, they see home price performance continuing to rise, over the years. If you understand compounding interest, you realize how significant all this is, because that 3% builds on that 2%, that builds on that 3%, that builds on that 3%, that builds on that 4%. So add all those up, 7, 11, 13, 16. So your money just gained 16% over the course of 4 years, 5 years from this purchase decision, that it compounds. And if you understand compounding, it's not 17% on the price in 2023. It compounds on the compounding, on the compounding, of the compounding, of the compounding. And so when you start to do the math on that and you see those upticks, like there's an understandable science and mathematic equation to this financial picture that most people don't quite get. So it's like, just buy a house, buy a house, sit in it for a while, make a good purchase decision in a good location with a good house. It's very hard to do poorly with that. The worst thing you can do is not do anything, because the longer you wait, the more it goes up in value, because that means the longer you wait, the more you have to pay these higher prices essentially on everything. So really, it's like the sooner you can get in, the better. On a good house, good location that you're going to like, it's going to appreciate. I can't tell you how much for sure, but it will appreciate over time. It always has, over a 3 to 7 year period on everything. But I'm not going to tell you exactly how much it's going to, other than it will. Let's see, anything else significant to consider? So this is how many mortgages have less than 4%. 70% of them do, which this might cause you to think that everyone has a super low mortgage on everything, but you'd be surprised how many people don't really have that much of a mortgage on their house to begin with. Because of those 26% of homeowners, 43% say it's because they would not need a mortgage. Mortgage rates are less relevant to older homeowners. That's that 38% that own their house free and clear. And you can see how many people aren't affected by the interest rate. It's the baby boomers, because they got a lot of cash in their house, so they're very financially secure. It doesn't matter to them as much. And you're seeing a lot of them move from bigger, crazier, high-priced markets to smaller markets like our Wichita market, just because they get the peace of mind and they get a bigger life and a better lifestyle here. And they're like, I can buy cash there. I don't care about the interest rate. It doesn't matter. It's us millennials that are affected by interest rates the most, because we're trying to get into houses, and that's what's making it hard. But this right here is probably the biggest stat to focus on. Like 68% of Americans have their mortgage paid off, or at least 50% equity. So it's all those boomers that have their house completely paid off, or people that are sitting on a ton of equity with greater than 50% equity. Like, this provides a lot of options that you don't need loans, you don't need mortgages, the interest rates don't matter, for people to make moves and do things. To where, interest rates are high, yes, but you can see how many people are cutting it thin, which isn't that many. And that's really the thing, is you don't want to be cutting your equity too thin. A house is a good place to put your cash and to have it appreciate and to make smart financial moves and to gain equity, so that you have something that's working for you on your behalf, not you just constantly working for money on everything. So that's why home ownership is probably one of the safest, best things to do. And I think that's all I got for here. I'm going to